in which our happy couples learn that life is not easy, whether as newlyweds or as recent divorcees. Chapter 27. After the teacher, there was a lesson with his father. Waiting for his father, Seryosha sat at the desk playing with his penknife and began to think. Among his favorite occupations was looking for his mother during his walk. He did not believe in death generally, and especially not in her death, though Lydia Ivanovna had told him and his father had confirmed it, and therefore, even after he was told that she was dead, he looked for her during his walks. Any full-bodied, graceful woman with dark hair was his mother. At the sight of such a woman, a feeling of tenderness welled up in his soul, so strong that he choked and tears came to his eyes, and he expected her to come up to him at any moment and lift her veil. Her whole face would be visible. She would smile, embrace him. He would smell her smell, feel the tenderness of her hand, and weep happily, as he had one evening when he lay at her feet and she tickled him, and he laughed and bit her white hand with its rings. Later, when he learned by chance from the nanny that his mother was not dead, and his father and Lydia Ivanovna explained to him that she was dead for him because she was not good, which he simply could not believe because he loved her, he kept looking and waiting for her in the same way. Today, in the summer garden, there was a lady in a purple veil whom he watched with a sinking heart, expecting it to be her as she approached them on the path. This lady did not reach them, but disappeared somewhere. Today, Seryosha felt stronger surges of love for her than ever, and now, forgetting himself, while waiting for his father, he cut up the whole edge of the desk with his knife, staring straight ahead with shining eyes and thinking of her. "Papa is coming," Vasily Lukitch distracted him. Seryosha jumped up, approached his father, and, after kissing his hand, looked at him attentively, searching for signs of joy at getting the Alexander Nevsky. "Did you have a nice walk?" Alexey Alexandrovitch said, sitting down in his armchair, moving the book of the Old Testament to him and opening it. Though Alexey Alexandrovitch had told Seryosha many times that every Christian must have a firm knowledge of sacred history, he often consulted the Old Testament himself, and Seryosha noticed it. "Yes, it was great fun, Papa," said Seryosha, sitting sideways on the chair and rocking it, which was forbidden. "I saw Nadenka." Nadenka was Lydia Ivanovna's niece, whom she was bringing up. "She told me you've been given a new star. Are you glad, Papa?" "First of all, don't rock, please," said Alexey Alexandrovitch. "And second, what is precious is not the reward, but the work, and I wish you to understand that. If you work and study in order to get a reward, the work will seem hard to you. But when you work," Alexey Alexandrovitch said, recalling how he had sustained himself by a sense of duty that morning in the dull work of signing 118 papers, "if you love the work, you will find your reward in that." Seryosha's eyes, shining with tenderness and gaiety, went dull and lowered under his father's gaze. This was the same long familiar tone in which his father always addressed him, and which he had learned to fall in with. His father always talked to him, so he felt, as if he were addressing some imaginary boy, one of those that exist in books, but quite unlike him, and he always tried, when he was with his father, to pretend he was that book boy. "You understand that, I hope?" said his father. "Yes, Papa," Seryosha replied, pretending to be the imaginary boy. The lesson consisted in learning several verses from the Gospel by heart and going over the beginning of the Old Testament. Seryosha knew the Gospel verses quite well, but as he was reciting them, he got so lost in contemplating the bone of his father's forehead, which curved sharply at the temple, that he got confused by repetition of the same word, and moved the ending of one verse to the beginning of another. It was obvious to Alexey Alexandrovitch that he did not understand what he was saying, and that annoyed him. He frowned and began to explain what Seryosha had already heard many times and could never remember, because he understood it all too clearly, the same sort of thing as thus being an adverbial modifier of manner. Seryosha looked at his father with frightened eyes and thought of one thing only, whether or not his father would make him repeat what he said, as sometimes happened, and this thought frightened him so much that he no longer understood anything. But his father did not make him repeat it, and went on to the lesson from the Old Testament. Seryosha recounted the events themselves quite well, but when he had to answer questions about what some of the events foreshadowed, he knew nothing, though he had already been punished for this lesson. The place where he could no longer say anything, and mumbled, and cut the table, and rocked on the chair, was the one where he had to speak of the antediluvian patriarchs. He knew none of them except Enosh, who had been taken alive to heaven. He had remembered the names before, but now he had quite forgotten them, especially because Enosh was his favorite person in all the Old Testament, and Enosh, having been taken alive to heaven, was connected in his mind with a whole long train of thought, to which he now gave himself, staring with fixed eyes at his father's watch chain and a waistcoat button halfway through the buttonhole. In death, which he had been told about so often, Seryosha totally refused to believe. He did not believe that the people he loved could die, and especially that he himself would die. For him that was perfectly impossible and incomprehensible, yet he had been told that everyone would die. He had even asked people he trusted, and they had confirmed it. His nanny had also confirmed it, though reluctantly. But Enosh had not died, which meant that not everyone died. And why can't everyone be deserving the same way before God, and get taken alive to heaven? Thought Seryosha. The bad ones, that is, those whom Seryosha did not like, they could die, but the good ones should all be like Enosh. Well, so who are the patriarchs? Enosh? Enos? You've already said that. Bad, Seryosha, very bad. If you don't try to learn what's most necessary for a Christian, his father said, getting up, what else can interest you? I'm displeased with you. And Pyotr Ignatych, the chief pedagogue, is displeased with you. I will have to punish you. The father and the pedagogue were both displeased with Seryosha, and indeed he studied very badly, but it was quite impossible to say that he was an incapable boy. On the contrary, he was much more capable than the boys whom the pedagogue held up as examples to Seryosha. As his father saw it, he did not want to learn what he was taught, but in fact he could not learn it. He could not, because there were demands in his soul that were more exacting for him than those imposed by his father and the pedagogue. Those demands were conflicting, and he fought openly with his educators. He was 9 years old. He was a child, but he knew his own soul. It was dear to him. He protected it as the eyelid protects the eye, and did not let anyone into his soul without the key of love. His educators complained that he did not want to learn, yet his soul was overflowing with a thirst for knowledge. And he learned from Kapitonich, from his nurse, from Nadenka, from Vasily Lukich, but not from his teachers. The water that his father and the teacher had expected to turn their mill wheels had long since seeped away and was working elsewhere. His father punished Seryosha by not letting him visit Nadenka, Lydia Ivanovna's niece. But this punishment turned out to be lucky for Seryosha. Vasily Lukitch was in good spirits and showed him how to make windmills. They spent the whole evening working and dreaming of how to make a windmill so that you could turn round with it, hold on to the wings, or be tied to them and turn. Seryozha did not think of his mother all evening. But when he went to bed, he suddenly remembered her and prayed in his own words that for his birthday tomorrow his mother would stop hiding and come to him. Vasily Lukitch, do you know what extra I prayed for besides? To study better? No. Toys? No, you'll never guess. It's splendid but secret. If it comes true, I'll tell you. You can't guess. No, I can't. You'll have to tell me, Vasily Lukitch said, smiling, which rarely happened with him. Well, lie down. I'm putting the candle out. I can see what I prayed for better without the candle. Now I've nearly told you the secret, said Seryozha, laughing gaily. When the candle was taken away, he heard and felt his mother. She stood over him and caressed him with her loving eyes. But windmills came. A penknife came. Everything got confused, and he fell asleep. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.